Okay, good evening, everybody, and we're here live from the Titahi Bay Bowling Club to see whether these fantastic candidates here are vying for the chance to become your next regional councillors for the Porirua-Tawa Constituency, and they're going to be spending their time answering these sealed boxes of questions. But with every election, there's one thing stepping in the way, and that's your vote. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's It's in the Ballot show. We are doing the Porirua-Tawa constituency of the Greater Wellington Regional Council. Now, the Regional Council is, you could sit there and say, it is the upper body of two councils. A lot of people will probably associate with the District Council, whereas the Regional Council is, their function is environmental management and public transport. So they do a slightly different role, but they are equally important when it comes to voting. Now, before we get to our fantastic candidates who are here tonight, let's sit there and find a bit about the Porirua-Tawa constituency.
Porirua-Tawa Constituency, Greater Wellington Regional Council. The Porirua-Tawa constituency covers all of the Porirua City Council boundary and the old Tawa Borough of the Tawa Borough Council prior to the 1989 reforms. What does the Porirua-Tawa constituency have that's unique? Well, it has 10 train stations, 4 of them starting with the letter P in their name, 6 bus routes plus Metland's first on-demand bus service in Tawa, New Zealand's only police college, plus you've got the Belmont Regional Park and the Battle Hill Regional Park within the constituency area. Now, let's get to the important part, the voting system. The Porirua-Tawa constituency will be electing 2 councillors to the Greater Wellington Regional Council. You'll be electing them using the voting system, single transferable vote. So you will be ranking your candidates from number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and so on. You can rank as many candidates as you want or as few as you want.
Okay, thank you for the electorate video. Hopefully that explains a bit about the voting constituency area of who you'll be going through there. Now, let's start off with Robin. You're the one on the far end. I want to make sure I get these candidates right. You get to have your first opening statements on why the voters of the Porirua-Tawa constituency should give their number 1 preference to you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Nā mihi ki ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohi Ngāti Toa Rangatira. Ki Te Atiawa, Raua, ko Scottish tōku iwi. Ko Robin Smith tōku ingoa. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Titahi Bay. What the Regional Council does is to protect the health of the water and the land and the air. It also protects nature, provides public transport, urban water supply, at least for the time being, flood protection, regional parks, and it coordinates emergency management. So I'm standing for the Porirua-Tawa Constituency of Regional Council because of my deep concern about the lack of protection of our waterways and Te Awarua or Porirua, our Porirua Harbour. I'm standing because of climate change. I'm standing because biodiversity loss is continuing in our region, and I want stronger action on reducing our impacts on the environment.
Next up is, now I just want to get this right. Was it Hikatea?
I want you to get it right too.
Did I get it right?
One more time.
Was it Hikatea?
Hikitea,
Hikatea.
like that rusty old boat in Wellington Harbour with barnacles on its bottom. Hikitea ropata. Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Ka nui te mihi ki ngā audience, no mai hara mai, kua hui hui mai nei. Ko wai au ko hiki te ropata hau, he uri hau Ngāti Tōrangatira, te Atiawa, Ngāti Raukawa me Ngāti Porou hoki. Hi everybody, lovely to see our small audience here, and hello to those people on the TV or behind the TV. Why am I standing? Well, for me, I've worked as in many advisory committees to Regional Council over the past 7 years, and as a member of those committees, it was not a very diverse audience in front of you with all the councillors basically, and I thought I could add a bit of spice to the Regional Council and a bit of diversity. So why am I standing? To me, this is a 7-generation mokopuna strategy for me. I want 7 generations of my grandchildren and their grandchildren to be in a community that they can live, love and learn in, which is kind to the whenua, which has a transport system that actually is affordable and accessible, and that they are able to walk amongst the native flora and fauna that we now have to reintroduce to the lands of our community. I'm really keen to build or to provide or give koha my skills in the policy world and my engagement with the community. I think that we're a community and a population across this area, Porirua and Tawa and Porirua Bay, that is very diverse in terms of income, work, housing needs. I think that the Regional Council has a lot to offer and can contribute to all of our communities in the Porirua-Tawa area. I think our biggest challenge as a community is the challenge of people, and I include myself in that. We are the people that need to change some of our attitudes, our behaviours, and our habits to make this a better place to live for our future generations. And I'm thinking, I don't know why I chose 7. It's an odd number. But kia ora everybody. Lovely to see you.
Okay, next up, Roger.
Hello, my name's Roger Watkin. I live in Plympton. We're fortunate to be living in one of the most fastest growing parts of the country, and within the growth comes challenges. Climate change, soaring cost of petrol at the pumps and supermarkets. The ongoing fallout from COVID and the flu are just some of the hurdles facing our residents and businesses. By working and collaborating, we can get the best outcomes available to our communities. Not one size fits all in all our region, like Tawa, Linden, Keniparu, Porirua Central, East and West, Titahi Bay, Camborne, Aotea, Whitby, Parramatta, Mana, Plympton and Porirua Bay. All our villages have their own opportunities and challenges. I want to be part of that dialogue and with all our communities and represent you with energy and pride at the regional table. Recently, announcements regarding central government funding public transport for our region are great news. It's vital that our part of our region receives opportunity funding for existing services, for expanded infrastructure. There are still concerns about degrading Porirua Harbour. These unresolved issues impact our district, and I believe my inclusion, my style of leadership will lead practical solutions. I'm very grateful for the enormous support I've already received from our community and would very much welcome being part of your representative on the Regional Council. I'm only a phone call or email away to resolve any issues you may have. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we've got our candidates there. We do have apologies from Chris Kirk-Bernard and Lynette Atani. Is that Atani? Is that how you say the name? Itani. Okay. Yeah, we had apologies from them to say they're unable to make it because they're not in town at the moment. So if you're wondering why we've only got 3 there, that would explain why. But hopefully these 3 people will convince you why they get your number 1 votes. Okay, we'll take a quick break and then we'll get to our ballot box questions. See you after the break. Okay, welcome back. So now with It's in the Ballot here, we have 30 sealed boxes here with the questions locked up inside. Any person who's on camera here doesn't know what questions are what on boxes are as they get sealed by someone who is not going to be appearing on the show on the night. As we go through the show, the candidates pick up a box number and then they answer the question that's inside the box. With following the theme of the TV show It's in the Bag, there will be 2 booby questions. One of them is called Dodge the Question. The other one is called Defer the Question to another candidate. The principle behind Dodge the Question and Defer the Question to another candidate is that you'll get our jail-free cards that you do not use. If you do not use it, that is indicating you are trying to get yourself out of answering the question. So, you know, we thought we'd sit there and go with the theme. It's a bit different from rubber duckies and bags of, 10 kg bags of potatoes, but I'm sure we can settle for that. So, Roger, since we started from this end, we'll start from the other end. What box number do you want to pick? Number 6. Okay, and on the question sheet, it's number 7. Let's sit there and do it. We recently discovered that there was no oversight of the fluoridation program and that our teeth had been rotting away on your watch. What steps will you put in place to see sure this does not happen again? I'm a little bit perplexed how that was written, but... Yeah. Ensure.
Can we pick,
Yeah.
Can we pick another box?
No, you got to answer the question. I do know you aren't an incumbent, so you can talk about your plans to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, I think you've got to, one of those things, it wasn't good that it happened. And honestly, I think you've actually got to look at the monitoring of it and make sure you're putting steps in place that things like this don't happen and make people accountable. Simple as that, and make sure that it comes to the table that these are reported on a monthly basis, and so we actually physically know when the problem occurs, and it may not happen again.
Nice. Okay. You can answer it for your Facebook lives afterwards. Was it now? Was it he could he could God he could tear Okay, what box number do you want to put? I'm sorry, but it stops at 30. 26, no problem. But well, exactly, and we've got a first. Okay, and it's number 5 on the question sheet. Greater Wellington Regional Council has recently considered bus fares. Do you think bus fares should be free? And if so, what would you do to implement this?
I don't think bus fares should be free. I think that they should be lower in terms of cost for those people who have affordability issues around transport. How would I? Easy. We've got a pandemic and inflation's having a massive impact on people, so it is lower now. So we've got a transport system that is cheaper. If we can do that in this context, think of the other mechanisms that we've got that we can actually achieve lower cost transport for those people who need it. I myself have a good income and I'm happy to pay a fare, but I think that we've got to think about the equity issues involved in the cost of transport systems.
Okay. Robin, what box number? 16. Okay. And on the question sheet, it's number 11. Gravel is no longer being extracted from our rivers due to environmental effects. However, this is creating flooding issues as riverbeds rise. Gravel is still needed for developments, so land gravel quarries are being developed, which are also creating environmental effects. How can we gain access to river gravel to ensure that the gravel is available from rivers to minimize flooding effects and is available for development? Oh.
They're right. The gravel can't be extracted for development because of the environmental effects. The environmental effects are extremely harmful to aquatic fauna. Over extraction results in deep and incised rivers, which make rivers run very fast. Ideal rivers have riffles, runs, and pools for a diversity of biodiversity. And extraction smooths out the whole of the riverbed, resulting in less habitat and therefore less diversity of aquatic invertebrates and fish. So they only are allowed to extract gravel for the purposes of flood protection, and it's done very carefully. In terms of having gravel available for development, then there would be, rocky promontories that can be chopped down, and but I mean that would be a resource consent issue as well. So I don't know what's going to happen really with the gravel for development.
No, it's an interesting response.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Okay, Roger, what box number? And it's on the question sheet of number 1. What are the challenges facing the harbour and its catchment, and what are your priorities for protecting and enhancing the quality of them?
Well, obviously, it's been a lot of being in progress. There's been lots of meetings. It's there's been 50 culverts into the in the harbour, polluting our waterways, and we really got to look at the progress that's been made. It's pretty painful and slow, It's work in progress, and we just got to keep at it.
I like the answer. I learnt something tonight, and I'm pleased by that because I didn't know how many culverts were leading into the Porirua Harbour. So, for those at home, we've all learnt something, and it just shows that our candidates are definitely doing the good research. So, Hekatea, what box number?
Let's go for
15, which is deep down the back. And on the question sheet, it's number 12. I often want to take my bike on the train at the weekends and public holidays, but there are bus replacements which often don't take bikes. What will you do to ensure bikes can always be taken on public transport? I think it might mean some of the bus replacements don't have bike racks on the front.
might mean that. So they're basically inadequate for the way we want to live as a community, I guess. I think for me, as an elected member, I would have to lobby on behalf of those people who want to use different forms of transport while using buses to go places. I think that essentially it seems like perhaps a funding and a system issue that can be changed. I think the regional council needs to expect that people will want to use the transport system in a different way, and they need to make that available to its community members. Other than putting in policies to enable that to happen, you can think about, as Roger mentioned, there are ways of doing that through better performance expectations of the system, of the CEs and of the managers who work at Greater Wellington Regional Council to ensure that actually is part of our transport system.
So that would be things like planned bus replacements would be as part of the contractors
Yes.
having bike racks on the front.
Yeah, which
as an
we used to
example.
do in the old day when we could put prams on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Robin, what box number do you want to pick? Okay, on the question card, it is number 6. How do you propose to foster a more positive public impression of more active modes of transport such as cycling and walking?
All our new developments need to prioritise excellent and urban design. So cycling and walking and public transport should be prioritised over roads for private cars. We need to ensure wheelchair users, prams, and everyone travelling on foot have enough space to get where they need to go. Cycling and walking areas need to be safe from vehicles, and they need to be well lit, well graded, and user friendly. We also need shading and shelter, especially to get to public transport stops and at Porirua Station and Tawa Station. Bike storage areas need to be safe and secure and really easily accessed.
Okay. What box number, Roger? Okay, on the question card, it is number 3. As more farms are turned into pine forest, how will you how will that affect the requirements in the future for the poplar poles to control erosion?
Well, I'll be quite honest, that's got me baffled.
It's got me baffled as well.
Yes, it's a very unusual question, and I'll be up front and honest. So actually, I don't know how to answer it. I don't want to be too full of.
Have we, Robert? Yeah, Robert. Yeah, if you can educate us.
Poplar poles are the branches of poplar trees, and they're very, very cheap to produce because all they do is cut down a whole bunch of branches and they stick them in the ground and they grow roots. And they grow quite good roots to help prevent erosion.
Oh, great. Okay.
But this question doesn't quite make sort of sense. But instead of actually using poplar poles, we should be retiring highly erodible land and planting it with locally appropriate native species, which will be sequestering carbon and providing the farmer with actually an income in time, and quite a good income in time. And it will also help reduce emissions and also will help prevent sedimentation of our waterways. So those erodible sites all need to be planted up. And Landcare Research has done a really good trial on the sort of trees that hold the land really well. And we can see around Porirua and Wellington that gorse and mahoe don't hold waterlogged soils. We actually need to, but that's because the land was all cleared and that's what's coming back. So we actually need to be really proactive about the species we plant back to hold the soils.
Great answer. Very solution focused. Yeah. Hey, Katia, what box number? 7. Okay. Okay, on the question sheet it is number 8. This year sees the start of the Māori wards in the Porirua city. Well, Māori ward, we should say. Would you consider introducing them to the regional council in the next term?
Trust me to get that question right. The Māori and the yeah, it's a great question.
It's all right.
I have thought of this actually, and actually I think yes. If our local councils can do it, why can't our regional councils?
Horizons have done it. So
yeah, they have, and
yeah, so
great
Horizons have
example.
done it, which is our neighbouring regional council to the north. So
Yeah.
you know, if
Yeah, and it is something that I will challenge the regional council on if I get in. I do believe I may have challenged them already in this space as a community committee member. I don't know why it's taken so long for them to come to a conclusion that it's the right thing to do. So maybe they need more convincing. I think it's the right thing to do because actually it addresses some of the equity issues that we face sitting in, the varying crown system. Having said that, I think it's important that the people who sit in these seats actually are able to articulate a perspective, a Māori perspective anyway. And that means building relationships with your local iwi to understand their perspective. So whether there's a ward seat for Māori in particular, that'd be great. But having people go into council, having relationships with iwi so they can get their view, I think is equally as important as well.
Okay, Robin. What box number? Number 1. Okay, it's number 28 on the question sheet. COVID has shown us that we need a bit more space to move around and not catch contagious diseases. At the moment, those in cars have all the space and pedestrians are squashed onto narrow pavements. What would you do to make more space for those of us walking around the city, such as one-way streets, changes in on-street parking to pavements, etc.? Probably say for a regional council perspective, park and ride facilities, bike storages, because I mean, regional council can help along the way. I mean, I was going to say more carriage trains.
Yeah, well, that is a city council question, because they determine pedestrian areas and roads in cities. So, but however, Porirua City is very badly designed in terms of walking around. The shops and the mega centre are all very spread out, and it just encourages car use. If we had better public transport, that could bring people to the city, and free fares. It would encourage people to come by public transport. Therefore, we would need less roads, less wide roads, less parking. We could use some of the parking for apartments in the city centre, and we could use some of the parking areas for city parks that are badly needed to offset climate change effects.
Thank you. Okay, Roger, what box number? Number 2. Okay, number 27 on the question cards. Do you support the use of masks, especially indoor, particularly on our public transport, as an important tool for keeping COVID at bay and others safe?
Yes, I do. Sorry about that. No, I do. I feel it's worked. It's not a big inconvenience, and I think it just should continue because it's obviously kept a lot of people. It's for their own safety, and I think as these actually you look after your personal safety on these things, and it's no problem. When you pick up your phone and your wallet, and you pick up your mask.
I think that's the new thing.
That's the new thing.
Have you got your wallet? Have you got your keys? Have you got your cell phone? Have you got your mask?
That's it. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, Hecate, what box number? Later was Stevenson from where I know. So that's right. It was Hilary Timmins when it came to the John Hawkesby era, where it didn't really last long, and then he became a news presenter. Okay, so on the question sheet, it's number 9. Regarding public transport, do you believe we should invest more or less relatively? If so, how do you see us getting to the required level? And if not, what other methods do you have for tackling congestion and air pollution?
Oh, that's a big question. I do think we should invest more, but I think we need to be clever about what that investment is. Electric works, buses works. I don't know about the double decker thing, to be honest. Across
Not really around here.
No, exactly. Wellington is the worst place to get double decker buses because of the wind, but I suspect there's nothing we can do about that now.
They don't really
It's
tip
terrifying
over.
being at the top of them, frankly. I find it terrifying.
I enjoy them.
I
You
know.
can see the world that you
the
don't see.
sway, it's yeah. In terms of sorry, I'm going back to the rest of it. What is here we go. If so, how do you see us getting to the required level? And if not, well, it's going to take time. I could see that in terms of what's happening to get more of what we need in terms of buses. They're very expensive things to get into a region, to be honest. How much does it cost for a bus? Someone told me it was
You've been
close-
looking about $500,000 to $1 million.
$1 million
depending on
is what I heard to
Yeah.
get one bus. So
I heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
The trolley buses
Versus the cost of
the conversion for when the diesel
Yes.
ones came around, they were about $500,000, and I do know on the cards was $1 million option that came with a 10-year servicing contract. However, the contract provider chose the cheap option. But that's, and I mean, that's 10 years ago sort of figures. So, now you're probably looking, at least $500,000, it could be
Right.
up towards $1 million. But then you've got lower running costs with electric.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Robin makes a really good point. It's that versus the cost of climate change and what it's going to cost us to change our behaviours, to be honest. I think we need to redesign the townships within townships and actually have access to the things we need that are closer to us where we live. I think about the 40,000 houses that are going to be put in the Porirua region over the next 20 years. And I think, okay, let's get cleverer. That's a word, eh? Cleverer about actually the design of those spaces and places for people. we don't want people to travel, literally
Like Porirua
to-
Bay to
to Porirua to come and get their shopping. They
Yeah.
could do that in Porirua Bay, and in the new development in the Western Ward, they could do that in their space. It just cuts down on some of the pollution that we're getting in the air, and I just think that's about clever design, and we can do it. And I think if you talk to your community about what that could look like, you'd probably hit the mark. But that's the issue, isn't it? We've got to actually get the voice of our community in on design going forward.
Okay, Robin, what box number?
29, please.
Not a problem. Okay, question number 10 on the sheet. The current process for citizens' engagement seems to be very daunting for the majority of people. How can ordinary residents and ratepayers get their voice heard by council, particularly those that are in other constituencies far from yours?
Okay, we need to have a lot more informal meetings between councillors and council staff and the community. We also need to have someone independent explain the proposals that council are coming up with in plain English and the implications to the community. We need to what else do we need to do? I've forgotten. Can I refer to my notes?
It's all right.
Sorry. Oh, yes, that's right. We need to explore advisory groups like Wellington City Council has. They have a youth advisory group, and we could have advisory groups for the rainbow community. We could have disabled community advisory groups who are able to advise on council strategies. And we need to be able to compensate those group members for their time as well. And we also need to support community groups that disperse information well, like the Titahi Bay community group do a really good job of helping out the community. And we need a database of experts in our communities that can also help people make submissions.
Okay, Roger, what box number? Okay, question number 15 on the sheet. Councils are being given roles and responsibilities from central government coming from regulation legislations. These are referred to as unfunded mandates. What's your opinion on these unfunded mandates from central government?
Obviously, they should be funded, or they wouldn't be asked. We've got to help. To get answers, you've actually got to invest. If you don't invest, you don't get the right people doing the right job. And I think, obviously, if these underfunded mandates, how can you get the right results? And how can you start somewhere if you haven't got a physical paying these people? And it helps us long term. It'll help us long term if they're funded.
Okay, Hekatea. Well, I can tell you. Yeah. Was it Todo Tako Ma Todo? Yeah. Well. Number was it Iwa? I should sit there. I did go to school in the 90s, so we actually did learn our numbers quite well in Māori. Yeah. And yes, on the TV show 9 Lives, are you the person who tends to scream out the correct answer? I love that show, and so does I got my grandma hooked on it as well. She absolutely loves it. She's screaming the right answers, not against the Māori language. Okay. What are you Oh, and it's 22 for the for it's mainly for Paul at home. What are you going to do to ensure young people's voices are heard and actioned to keep our region vibrant and growing?
So I absolutely agree that the regional council needs to have a different way of engaging with its community, and I don't see why they couldn't have particular advisory groups which are specifically focused, like Robin talked about rangatahi groups and LGBTQ groups. I think actually they have to proactively pursue voice. I actually think other parts of the government system and the local government system are doing it now across the country, engaging in those voices. So I think participation is the key, and that's what's important. Why couldn't we think about how you could do this smartly using technology and platforms and enable young people to have, technology, platform hubs where they can engage with on a regular basis, facilitated by young people, for example. But, having our councillors present, listening and understanding the voice of our people, of our communities. Yeah.
Robin. Oh, we get the claps. I like this audience. They all clap. I know. Yeah. Yeah, we did a clap track. Okay.
Okay. I'll go
Okay.
17, please.
17. I actually want to get one for the booby questions where it goes duh, 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 when that's something I'm working on tomorrow to see tomorrow or Sunday if we can actually apply that to the booby questions. Speaking of booby questions, you've got to defer the question to another candidate.
I don't want to. Can I just have another question?
Of course. Well, and that's what happens when you get a booby question. We pick another box.
Okay. 30, please.
30. Okay, question number 4 on the sheet. What are your plans for flood mitigation and resilience if you become elected, particularly in Plymouton from a regional council role?
Plymouton has massive problems with flooding, and also so does the Tawa Valley and probably a few other places in rural Porirua-Tawa. So we're suffering the effects of weather pattern change from climate change. We're having much more frequent and intense storms. We are seeing much more intensive flooding with subsequent erosion of stream banks, and that is having a massive impact on people and property and our environment. So at the moment, there's a flood protection scheme on the Te Awa Kairangi Hutt River, where they've actually bought up 120 properties to allow the river to move wider than its narrow channelized stream. There isn't one for the Porirua or Plymouton area, and I think just because the population is smaller in those areas, the effects should not be dismissed. So I will push really, really hard for flood protection review, especially because the Plymouton flooding is going to be exacerbated massively by the development on State Highway. It's now 59, used to be 1, between Plymouton and Porirua Bay, unless they can do that development with best practice, then it's just going to get worse down at Plymouton.
Okay. Roger, what box number?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay, question number 26 on the card. Okay. Do you agree that if there is a move to introduce volumetric charges for water for residents, it should be only introduced with the consent of the majority voter?
I personally think, seeing living, I had a wee spell up in Kapiti, it went very, very well up there. They all have water meters now, and I feel it'd be good if they got them down in some areas, Porirua-Tawa area. But once again, I'd actually asked the voters to vote on it, yes or no, because I don't think we can just put them in without a bit of consultation. But I think personally they found that much water up in places that was being wasted up the coast. Absolutely, it was just unbelievable. And and I think it's something we got to look at, because we'll run out of water again this summer if we don't watch it.
And would you consider Dunedin's approach of smart water meters?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I couldn't really vouch for that. I've heard the Kapiti one is a very good example of how they're using it, and
Depends how frequently they read the meter, though.
You'll soon find out where the leaks are, and
Yeah.
you'll soon find out how much water is actually wasted in this community. And water is a very, very precious commodity, and we're not treating it like that.
We do need to think it through very carefully, though, about how we don't negatively impact on people with large families, because also, places like community nurseries, which are doing good for the public, and for everyone. But I wouldn't be able to operate my community nursery at home if I had to pay for the water that I water it with. I am very careful, but
yes,
but I don't want to pay for
incentives, tax breaks, all those sorts of things for people.
Water storage tanks. Yeah.
Fix the pipes first.
Exactly, fix the pipes
Before the cycleways, you think?
Well, I was going to say, or you
checking.
put new pipes underneath the cycleways. Then you fix two issues at one time, and you might get 50% funding from the government. Yeah.
Which is eroding.
Yeah. So Hekatea, what box number? Oh, we're about nearly finished the round. Because got hard-hitting questions to get to. Speaking of BB questions, you have got dodged the question.
I'm not going to dodge the question.
So what box number would you like to replace her with? Oh, now there's a good story about Shannon there with the numbers. They got rid of their number 13s in every street. Yes. No, they're not. I used to live there. I was going to say, there are 3 main roads in Shannon. But no, I lived there for 6 months. Oh, it's a place. I've got to admit, they've got two good takeaway stores when I lived there, and a very good Foursquare, and a very good dairy, and a good coffee shop. So I'm not going to complain. However, don't buy petrol from there back then. That was the rule. I always bought it from the Vinal Palmy. Okay, so on the question sheet, it's box number 4. It's question number 14. Do you think the Resource Management Act reforms is necessary?
Yes, I absolutely do think it is necessary. It's going to give more. Actually, what it's going to do is enable Māori to have a voice in the way whenua is treated, owned, and managed. And I think that's really, really important for us. And it's something that we've missed out on for a long 200 years' time.
Okay, Robin, what box number? 14. Okay, and it's number 13 on the question sheet. What do you think are the 3 biggest issues for councils in the next term, 2022 to 2025?
Okay. So I think the three biggest issues are climate change and the effects on communities. We need to reduce our emissions and work with the people that are most at risk from the impacts. Three waters is another big issue for councils. It means moving the responsibility of our water infrastructure to a new regulator. I support this because everybody should have access to clean drinking water and no sewage in their harbour. Because of the historical underfunding of our stormwater and wastewater infrastructure, most of the pipes around the Porirua Harbour are over capacity, particularly when it rains, and they discharge sewage into our harbour and our coastal marine areas just round the corner from Titahi Bay. It is 2022, it's totally unacceptable. And finally, I want to talk about public transport as a big issue. As we work to reduce our emissions, we need to encourage public transport, and we do this by having flexible, convenient, and reliable public transport, free fares, and the on-demand bus in Tawa is a fabulous idea, and it was a community idea. And yeah, it was a community solution, and it's working really well. It's slowly increasing. It's a fabulous service. I was contacted by someone in Ascot Park who said they have to be home at 6 on a Sunday because there's no buses after 6. I mean, it makes you feel like a little school child, doesn't it?
I thought the 220 was a high frequency bus route as well. So
Along Tweed Road, that's Ascot.
Oh,
yeah, Tweed
Tweed
maybe,
Road. Oh,
maybe
I thought-
that's Papakowhai.
I was like thinking that. Yeah, on Tweed Road. Yeah,
Sorry, wrong suburb, but
Yeah.
yeah. So some of the, you know,
yeah, the 236 is definitely not. It's mid frequency. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we just need to be able to get a bus when we need to.
Yes.
We need to get public transport when we need to,
Yeah.
and that will encourage people to use it. If it's there, people will use it. If it's not meeting the needs of the community, people won't use it.
Sam, I think we'd like the opportunity to add to that before we
Go
go to
ahead.
break.
Go ahead. Yeah, let's do that.
Everything that Robin said, absolutely. And in terms of the discharges, yes, it happens across our harbourways and in our harbour and along the coastal parts. Actually, if you live in Cannons Creek, it actually happens on your street when you're walking, and you smell it, see it, and have to walk past it. So that's a different equity issue, but it's the same issue of pollutants in your streets when you're walking, hopefully walking the streets. I do think climate change, weather bombs, emergency management is going to be a significant part of our future. And actually, we all can contribute to our solutions. That you see it happening now across the country. You know, we go to schools, we go to marae, we go to places that are going to support our communities to carry on some sort of normalcy as the weather bomb changes or the impacts of that will have. It is going to have significant impact on our coastal houses in this community. And we have to start talking and thinking about what the answers to that are now, because in 10 years, 20 years' time, there are going to be many families in our community that are going to, I think, be impacted and affected by it. I just want to, one more thing to say is just stop further degradation of what's happening into our harbour. I come from a community of people. Less than 70 years ago, we could fish in Porirua Harbour. Now all we can do is look at it and watch it glimmer and shine in the summer. And that's all you can do. The people out there who are doing waka ama on it come away with sores and rashes, and it's paru. And it's not fair. It's not fair to our future. 7 generations. Kia ora. Over to you now.
I back up what the ladies have said. Our three biggest issues: infrastructure, climate, and transport, and they're all on an equal par, and we just got to look at them very, very hard. The thing with emergency management in Plymoughton Resident Association have got an emergency management plan already in place, and I think it's got to carry throughout the area to make sure everybody knows everyone. We all know each other. All the neighbours know everybody. It's fantastic down there.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with hard-hitting questions.
We're driving cars on a Mars tonight. We're blasting off to the stars tonight. We wanna go, go. We wanna go, go. We're driving cars on a Mars tonight. We're blasting off to the stars tonight. We wanna go, go. We wanna go,
Hey, welcome back to It's in the Ballot. Now, we are heading for the segment of hard-hitting questions. So, let's sit there and roll over for hard-hitting questions. Okay, so with hard-hitting questions here, hard-hitting questions are given to all candidates because they are very vital, sensitive information, controversial topics. We want the candidate to sit there and answer. So tonight we have three of them because it's not there already. So let's start off with hard-hitting question number one. I think it's a very simple one. Can you please share us your thoughts on COVID-19 vaccination and affiliation with Voices for Freedom, Freedom Rights Coalition, and any other organisations involved in the occupation of Harbour? Roger, would you like to start off?
Firstly, I'm not involved in any of those groups. I have been vaccinated 2 or 3 times, twice. Third one's coming around the corner. I think what they've done, they had to do what they've done, and we all got behind them. And I feel quite happy I'm vaccinated. I'll wear a mask as many times as I like. Cheers.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Well, because I believe in peer-reviewed science, I'm pro-vaccination and boosters, and I'm not and never will be involved in any of those organisations that are anti-vax.
It is here. Still here. I'm pro-vax And no, I'm not affiliated to any of those groups, organisations.
Okay. So now let's switch over to hard-hitting question number 2. What is your position on the Water Report and why have you come to that position?
My position is that I think it's a good thing to do. A regulator of water to keep us all safe is important, and Robin referred to that earlier today. I think that a dedicated focus on drinking water is something that we need, and you just have to look at the fluoride situation in Porirua and other areas at the moment. I think a clearer separation. No, it's all right. I'm completely lost my train of thought. Okay, fine. That's me.
Okay. Roger.
Yes, I think we should look at the Three Waters reform, but there's a few things we've got to look at. Is the Auditor General said there needs to work to be done before it goes ahead, because we all want to drink good water, but we've got to make sure the delivery is good. So just hold off, think about it, and let's work with what the Auditor General has said, and then make sure delivery is very, very good. Cheers.
Okay. Robin.
I support the Three Waters because we've had decades of underfunding of our infrastructure, of our water infrastructure. We desperately need to improve our water infrastructure in the whole of the Wellington region, Porirua in particular. And the cost of that is estimated to be $130 to $185 million. Local government does not have enough. We need help from central government. As Roger said, I read that report too. The Auditor General has raised some concerns about lack of accountability built into the new water service entities. So it's really important to me that there is accountability and communities have a say in the decision making. If the accountability issues are solved, then I believe Three Waters give us an opportunity to utilise the best people and resources to get back on track and have clean waterways in Harbour.
Okay, now for hard-hitting question number 3, and I think this is going to be the more difficult one. Greater Wellington Regional Council is reluctant to initiate the Resource Management Enforcement proceedings against other local authorities. For example, Porirua City Council and its management of the wastewater network and the treatment plant. What can councillors do to make this enforcement regime more robust and will be more achievable with Three Waters? Start off with Robin.
Okay. So councillors can't do anything by themselves, but I will push the council to ask council managers to update the regional council monitoring and enforcement strategy. It is far too lax about what they enforce. With a large organisation such as the water services entities, which will run the Three Waters, there will be a bigger degree of separation between regional council. So that may mean stronger enforcement will be able to happen. And I want to ensure that there is adequate funding to be able to monitor and enforce consent conditions, and consent holders should pay the true cost of this. Too many times the regional council says we don't have enough resources, so we need to give them the resources they need to do their job. It's their job.
Hekatea.
I do think we need a clearer separation of the functions of councils, and that has to be better described and actually communicated to our community members in a way that's plain English, so that they understand those separation of powers. I think that Greater Wellington Regional Council, I think it's a good thing to divest their interests in Wellington Water, frankly, so that it becomes purely a regulator of quality water. I think there is an opportunity from a public policy perspective to tighten up the rules around discharges so that GWRC is obliged to enforce sooner rather than later, frankly. Kia ora.
Okay, Roger.
I agree with what the other two ladies have said here regarding the three waters, but we need to be very robust in enforcing our roles doing it. WG is very good at planning, but in several areas are very poor at implementing plans. So we've got to be a bit more robust and get these things what they across the line. Cheers.
Okay, so we now have a little bit of time. So can I grab one audience member who would like to ask these candidates a regional council related question? Who'll be brave enough to do the task? Come on up. Yeah, we'll treat it as hard hitting. Oh, I've got Mike. Well, so we at home can see you. Okay, so you've got your mic there, and we've got a camera on our guest.
Okay. Testing. Okay, kia ora to everyone. The question is, how can Regional Council reduce sediment entering the harbour?
Yeah. Yeah.
So currently, resource consent conditions are not strong enough to prevent the impacts of development. And the impacts of development are often the sedimentation of our waterways and harbour. So the consent conditions need to be meaningful and stronger. They also need to be monitored and enforced. And if they are monitored and enforced, even though it's too late once something has happened, it will act as a deterrent to other land developers. We also have a planting program that's just started. It's really great to see. And we've got some central government money in Porirua to plant stream sides, but it's really a drop in the bucket. The catchments of Porirua Harbour are massive, and we have lots of highly erodible land which needs to be planted up as a priority, and all the stream sides also need to be planted up as a priority because our catchments are very short and sharp. They flood very quickly, and they take the stream banks and all the sediment down the streams and into the harbour. So we have to act now, not in 10, 20, 30 years. We have to act now, and we have to do it urgently.
Hakatea.
To add to that, I actually think we need to change the way developers develop. And we have to do that now because the next 20 years when we see 40,000 more houses come, what we're going to be seeing is 40,000 more families come. And what we currently have, the ageing infrastructure that we have is not actually going to meet the needs, and we need to have a new treatment plant. There's a lot of things that we could do. I agree about the consent conditions. That is a mechanism. I actually think maybe we need to start finding people, organisations, developers for when they get it wrong. And we've got a court system that can do that. And we've got the legislation and the regulation that can do that. We're just not using it. A big shout out to those people who stop further degradation, and that's a way that the council can reduce sediment in the harbour. And so it's a shout out to the Jobs for Nature people that Ngāti Toa is sponsoring in terms of out there doing the mahi alongside people like Robin and other organisations, the Friends of Mana Island. Wetlands are really a good way to reduce sediment entering our harbour and our waterways. We want our waterways clean so that we can utilise them. So our young people, our children, our mokopuna can stand in those little streams and creeks and enjoy the water and the flora, the fauna, and the ecosystem that exists there. Kia ora.
Okay, Roger.
Well, GW over the last year, they've actually allocated 4 years to spend $10 million on planting in our regional parks. And this is also to help benefit impact on Porirua. There's a complementary planting program that the Porirua PC are doing at the moment. Although there's over 1,000 warnings were made to Transmission Gully, there's a little way of those issues being helped out. So it illustrates we need to have a different approach and have outcomes focused on as an organisation to get hold of these people, get it more monitored so we actually can action what they're doing to our harbours. Cheers.
Okay, so now let's head for closing statements because there's a couple of grandchildren who need to go to bed. So let's sit there and do that. Hikatea, would you like to start off with your closing statement down
Yes.
down the barrel?
This is going to be short and very short. Last week when I was at a tangi that I had to go to for a whānau member, I said to my mokopuna, I'm running for council. And he said, oh, what does that mean? And then I had to explain to him what that meant. He was 12 years old, but he got it pretty quickly. And I said, I've got to do lots of homework, moko, and there's a lot of things that I've got to, get my head around, like water, the environment, climate change. And he knew more about it than I did, to be honest, because they do it for school projects. And then I said, I've got to come up with a bit of a slogan. And he said, I'd like to help you with that. Robin's laughing because she knows what it is. And it just comes down to this. Pick nanny hick with a tick. Kia ora.
Well, it'll be for a number one, but yes, I love the concept. Okay, Roger, down the barrel.
Down the barrel, right. I believe grassroots representation is vital to regional council. As a regional council, I will attend community group meetings, residents associated meetings to ensure local voices are heard and listened to. Similarly, the relationship between the regional council and our local city council is crucial, and it needs a bit more bonding together. Best part of this, Transmission is going to be a huge game changer, and we need to ensure our part of the region is fully benefits for its competition. We are lucky to have so many excellent candidates, and I genuinely wish them all well. I would really appreciate your number one vote, but if you have a favourite among the candidates, I'm pleased to have received your number two vote. Cheers.
Okay, and Robin.
Okay. So I believe I've got the skills to be a really good councillor, to push hard. I'm dogged. I don't give up. I've worked for 10 years in the regional council and city council, so I know how the councils work, and I believe I'll be able to ask the right questions. I'm a very honest and open person. I laugh a lot, and I'm really, really accessible to people, and I love talking to people, and people generally like talking to me. So I'm really there for our communities right through the whole of our Porirua-Tawa ward, and I hope you'll vote for me.
Okay, so it's that time of the evening where I'd like to sit there and give the thanks. Stacey, Ray for being in studio, Paul from coming in remotely for doing our task to make sure things function tonight. And I think we've every night we seem to have a different hiccup. I think that seems to be the running theme, and we need the bingo card for guessing what the hiccups are. Can we also thank you, Roger, Robin, and Hikatea for attending this evening? It's very much appreciated. And I'm sure there are going to be many people watching the replays, and including for the people who are watching live at the moment. Now, the great part there. We got this Sunday. we'll be at the Kelson Community Centre for the Western Ward of Hutt City Council, if you want to see who's the two-horse race over there. And if we head to Monday and Tuesday, we've got our Upper Hutt Councillors at Large double debate. Stacey will be taking over on Monday night, and I'll be having the fun part of being on the reins on Tuesday. And if we want to get for the big one, we've got the Wellington mayoral race next Wednesday at the Kandala Town Hall. So, we're going to sit there and see who should be the next mayor of Wellington. I believe that's going to be an interesting one. And I'm pretty sure some of the viewers here, both online and in person, are going to be keen to see what's happening, considering the one with Hutt City Council, Campbell versus Tony, went down like a treat and had quite some good ratings. So can we give a round of applause to our candidates, to our crew, and our audience at home? Yeah, and our audience. Okay. And we'll see you at 7 p.m. this Sunday. We're taking tomorrow off. And we'll see you at 7 p.m. on Sunday for Western Ward Hutt City Council. Have a good evening.